Welcome to Father and Son, and welcome to you, Tom, on this freezing Tuesday morning.
Well, it's good to be here and certainly good to be inside. It is absolutely freezing outside in Melbourne at the moment.
Now, I think we should talk about the politics. The Parliament resumes today and only has 2 weeks to sit, and most people believe that this will be the last sitting before the election. Now, it's going to be a very critical couple of weeks for Mr Rudd because there's a lot of pressure, I think, coming from the Labor Party on him to settle the resource super tax.
Yes, well, I was very surprised. Simon Crean, for example, came out over the weekend and admitted that the government had not consulted adequately with the mining industry before implementing or promising to implement the resource and super profits tax. And Simon Crean is a former leader of the party, and that was quite a
very sensible man, actually.
A very sensible man, but quite a thing to say publicly. And of course, we've had the some would say unedifying spectacle of Julia Gillard being promoted as the alternative leader. The mere fact that the Labor Party, well, I agree with that, but the mere fact that the Labor Party is talking about losing an election, dumping their leader, etc., is very, very bad for their electoral prospects.
So do you think that they will fix up this super tax before the Parliament rises?
I think they have to. I think that there's a way for the government to fix it up.
And walk away from it.
Well, I don't think they'll walk away. I think what they'll do is they'll adopt the petroleum resource tax model, where the government takes a share of profits above a certain level, but it will be a higher level. And in the petroleum tax, it's 5% above the bond rate, which at the moment would be 11%. But the government doesn't subsidise any potential losses. That's a tax model that already exists, has done so for more than 20 years.
That only operates on, or when they implemented it only operated on new projects.
That's true. I don't think the government's going to back away from that. I think they'll want this on existing projects, because unless they do that, they can't plug the looming hole in the budget with a new source of tax revenue. So I think they'll back down. I don't think they'll back down entirely. Whether or not that helps them win votes or indeed improved opinion polls is another thing, because I mean, another back down by this government after so many might just show them.
Well, I think it'll sure run up as the leader, probably.
Maybe.
But I think it's going to be a very interesting 2 weeks. I don't think they'll get it done, because I'd be just surprised if the mining industry accepts the modification that they come out with. They still want to fight it.
Well, I guess the mining industry has got to be encouraged by the polls, which show that the tax is increasingly on the nose with people, not just in the resource states of WA and Queensland, but in other states as well. The mining industry might say, you know what, let's not agree to anything, let's have an election, maybe the coalition gets returned, then the entire tax goes away, as Tony Abbott's promised.
Exactly.
And the other thing, of course, still lurking away in the background is the National Broadband Network. Now, Telstra's share price has started to go up a bit, first time in a while. Some people think a deal is there to be done on that as well, but I mean, again, that would mean yet another backflip by the government.
Well, their policy making's been appalling, as we know. Let's get on to BP. I see the President Obama is going to meet the chief executive of BP at the White House.
He might be going to kick his ass, as he said. He wants to go and find out whose ass to kick.
Yeah, it's funny the way the Americans talk. But I see they want the money put in a separate fund to pay the compensation. Well, based on what you said last week, I'm not sure if I were BP, I'd accept that.
Now, BP has cancelled its first quarter dividend, and I believe that's worth as much.
They have cancelled it.
Yes, they have, and I think that could be worth as much. A figure of $10 billion has been put out there. I would imagine that's a full year dividend, not a quarterly dividend. Should they be forced to put money into a separate fund? Look, I don't think they should have to, because clearly the company can either pay or it can't. But it would satisfy a political imperative to say, you know what, we've now got the funds to help clean off these poor birds and clean up what is obviously a pretty hideous mess. There's talks of building new berms, like the big sandbars, the artificial ones they build in front of New Orleans during the hurricane season, but some people say that won't necessarily help with the oil spill. The answer is we're probably in uncharted waters with this sort of thing. How much will it cost? No one knows.
And then you've got, of course, all the cases that there'll be a lot of court battles.
Oh, look, I mean, there's people whose jobs, I mean, if you're in the fishing industry or other parts of the oil industry or whatever, the lawsuits will go on for years. And this spill is many times worse than the Exxon Valdez spill from over 20 years ago.
But I think the government, the federal government of the United States will go quite lightly themselves on BP because of their very strong relationships with Britain, and it's Britain's biggest company, but also because of what you said last week, that in fact legally BP only has to put up 75 mil.
Yes, I've had that figure confirmed. BP is voluntarily paying for this spill thanks to a US law in the early 90s. The federal government, the American government, is actually the one liable. So BP is prepared to contribute several $billion. We don't know how much yet, but it's a lot. I think the US government should grab that and accept it and be nice to them, as bad as that might look politically.
Now, in the business section of the Australian today, the main headline is that the global financial crisis is coming back because of the sovereign debt problems of Europe. Do you think that?
Well, over the weekend, Moody's, the credit rating agency, downgraded Greece's debt officially to junk status. So the whole country effectively is junk, which isn't good.
George Soros, I think it's been that for many years.
It has been that. Some would say many thousand years, but anyway. George Soros has said that the GFC Mark II is on the way. Look, the reality is there's nowhere else to go now. You know, the Germans have grudgingly agreed to bail Greece out. The International Monetary Fund has pretty much run out of money, and it's only funded by the same governments who themselves are in enormous budgetary problems. The only thing at the moment is people keep buying the US dollar and US government bonds, even though
and gold.
But the thing is, the US debt situation is possibly as bad as some of these other countries. At the moment, people still have faith in the US government. If that goes, we're in deep, deep economic trouble. And so, you know, you've got to look at US interest rates. If they stay low, things are okay. If they start going up, well, all bets are off.
Yeah, well, that's going to be it's a very interesting time, but it has created uncertainty in the investment community, hasn't it? The stock market's really been slipping.
Oh, it has, and that's why, going back to the resources tax, why it was such a dumb move. There was that much uncertainty about the global situation anyway, that to take one of the islands of certainty, the Australian economy, and put this massive new tax on it was a very, very dumb idea at the time.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think we've just got to hope that Mr Rudd stays there as leader. And my prediction of a couple of months ago that he'll be a one-term Prime Minister will be borne out to be true.
It's looking like your prediction could be right, Dan. I have to admit that.
All right, thank you, Tom. We'll see you next week.
Look forward to it.